Stone is one of humanity's oldest materials and somehow still one of the most radical. In his new book, Stone, Ancient Craft to Modern Mastery, sculptor and master stonemason Richard Rhodes reveals how centuries-old techniques continue to shape how we think and build today. And Richard joins me now to tell me all about the book. So why write a book about stone right now?
Well, I appreciate you asking, and what's fascinating is there is no book on stone in the Architects and General Library. It's a blank space. The last real book on stone was written in 1928. And so it seemed, you know, after spending my lifetime in stone, working on stone, thinking about stone, feeling this, feeling stone, I thought, it's the least I can do.
Absolutely. So tell me how you got into working with stone then. I'd love to hear about it.
You know, I was very lucky. After grad school in London, I had this idea that I wanted to go to Italy, and I apprenticed with the oldest labor guild in Europe called the Freemasons. And you've heard of the Freemasons, but the Freemasons are actually originally the operative branch of the Freemasons. The people that used the tools were the cathedral builders of Europe. And I went and I apprenticed with them. And my 15 minutes of fame is in 726 years of the guild lifetime. I'm the first and only apprentice that was accepted outside of Italy. So within the industry, I'm known as the last apprentice, which is a great honor to me.
What an honor. Yeah. What are some of the basics of stonecraft too that our viewers might not know or really think about that you could explain?
You know, I talk about this in the book, but we're a wood culture in the Northwest, right? And so we understand that wood has a grain, but stone has a grain. And it really requires kind of knowledge of that grain structure in order to use it, to express yourself in it. And so I give some good examples of how that is. But, for example, when we quarry slate, for example, you can split slate blocks into those thin shingles that become slate tiles on a roof, but only in the first year. And after that, the stone sort of dries out, and then whatever is not split has to be abandoned.
Do you think of stone as a living material?
You know, it's a funny thing. We speak of stone as the living rock, right? When it's first quarried, when it has that groundwater, which we call quarry sap, much like a tree. But when that dries out, we call it dead stone. So there is this kind of funny period where, of course, it's not actually living, but there's this kind of living quality to it that's a little springier. And so as a sculptor, we carve primarily in fresh stone, in what we call living rock, and once it dries out, it's still possible to carve it, but it's much more difficult and hard on the tools, hard on the hands.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Talk about the craft then versus the technology that's used today as well.
I like to say that not all progress is forward, right? We have designed technology that can slice and dice stone like a radish, but in that process, we've stripped a lot of the expressive quality from stone. And when we look at how stone was crafted in the past, we're using simpler implements, simpler tools. It's often much, much more expressive than the stone that we kind of slice and dice today. We can slice things very thin, we can polish them, but that isn't necessarily bringing out that sort of innate materiality, the essence of the stone expression, and it often is in conflict with what the artist is trying to express. So it's a tricky subject, but I go into it in some depth in the book. But I think that the question we really need to ask is, what is the technique that we can use that will bring that expression forward out of the stone? Because stone is capable of a vast array of expression. And the book looks at the last 5,000-year history of stone and sort of highlights some of the best examples. And when you see the kind of expressive things that people were doing 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, and you compare it to what we're doing today, I'm you know, I don't want to throw any stones here, but
Oh, here we go. I had to happen.
yeah, it's not. Maybe there's more we can do.
Ooh, well, I
Yeah.
can't wait to dive deeper in your book. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your passion.
My pleasure.